Okay, so y'all are big deals. Tell us why that is. Tell us about yourselves. And a little more about the Fela team as well, please, so that way everyone can know.
Hey guys, a little bit about Team Fela. We are about 2.5 years old. A lot of our team members unfortunately aren't here, but we are a black-owned and women-owned production company based out of Toronto and LA. We have our two executives, Fulian and Taj. We're also co-founded by Director X. Hopefully, some of you guys know him. He's made some pretty iconic music videos in the music video industry. But basically, we are a production company that really stands by owning your culture, telling your stories, and making sure that the right people are behind the camera in order to tell those stories, and also really putting effort into raising talent and giving opportunities to folks that maybe wouldn't in a more from production companies that maybe are not run by a diverse EPs, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, like if you look at our roster, we probably have one of the most diverse rosters in Toronto. We don't do that first roster, second roster bullshit. Can I swear? Is that okay?
I was told not to, and I said we're gonna do it anyway. So like,
Okay.
feel free. We're all adults.
Yeah, but I hope I'm describing our production company well and doing them proud. And yeah, and one of our amazing directors, LaShawn, is here with me to kind of. But yeah, I can like say automatically, LaShawn is someone I've had the pleasure of working with alongside producing for, and to watch his career, and I'll let him speak to that more, but to watch his career grow because of the support that our production company has given a director like LaShawn has been like amazing. And not to say that he couldn't have done it himself, because I'm sure he could have, but I think that having a director like LaShawn on Fela's roster, it's like we have gained so much from that, and I hope vice versa.
So, LaShawn, why don't you, I'm telling you, these rings on this man's finger right now, blinding me. The shine's going crazy. Ice. But yeah, if you could do the same, tell us a little bit about yourself, what the Fela team kind of is to you, how you got started. I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, actually. I think that's actually a really cool story if you could also bring that up, because it was kind of inspiring to me, so I think it would be inspiring to other people too.
Cool. Should I do the long answer or the short answer?
The medium answer.
The medium answer. It was a cold, dark night in October, and the wolves were howling. For me, Fela is very much like a family. Like we were speaking about, it's very different than a lot of other production companies. They're really invested in your development. They're really invested in you as an artist. They're really invested in the things that you want to do and helping you grow into the role that you're in. For me, directing, but really across the board. So for me, Fela team is really just like an extension of a family, which is great. It's become a place for like mentorship with me. Like I'm sure like a lot of us have came up watching, X music videos at the time. So to be a part of that and to be able to like run second unit for him and things like that, it's like a very much a full circle moment, right? I didn't really have a mentor per se when I was starting out. It was a lot of figuring things out, a lot of run and gun with people that are close to me, other directors, some of which are here today, and kind of found my space at the Fela team, and yeah, just say it's like a big family.
Can you quickly talk about how you got on the Fela team? You were talking about chili calls, something about chill calls.
Yeah, for sure. At the time, I was working with an artist, an R&B duo named Division, and I was kind of shooting like almost everything for them. music videos, photos, like we were on tours. It was like a crazy whirlwind of an experience that in a lot of ways prepared me for some of the more pressurized situations that I would be in later. But it was also like a great space to learn. But I felt like, in a way, I was like almost closer to the music industry than I was the film industry. So I had a few music videos that I had done for them and some other things that I had done with like creative outlets in the city at the time, like Free Agency and things like this. And I wanted to shift more into being able to do more music videos and being able to do commercials, and then ultimately being able to do like long format things. And the next step just made sense as far as being represented, right, and being signed as a director. So I took a few of the music videos I had done for them and some of the other things that I had shot, put a website together, put it all on Vimeo, and I just started cold calling production companies in the city. And I had a few meetings. One of the people that I cold called was Taj, co-founder of, at the time, Pop Rock. And he hit me back and he was like, yeah, come into the office, we'll have a conversation. And the way that I approached it wasn't like, I'm trying to be signed, I'm trying to be represented. It was more like, I just want to learn in whatever capacity that can be, whether it's like interning or shadowing. Like, I just kind of want to be around and be closer to where I'm trying to be, was kind of my approach.
And then tell me the very first thing they gave you.
Yeah, so I had that meeting, it was like an hour long, and at the end of it, Taj was just kind of like, yeah, so it's been great talking to you, like, you want to sign? And I was like, oh, this meeting went great, right? This went way better than expected. And then shortly after that, my first job with them was a music video for Miguel. So like, it kind of just started very, very quickly, and it was like into the deep end right away. And there was like a lot of pressure on that job. It was for a song that was off the soundtrack of a movie that X was directing. So it was kind of like having to follow through, making sure it was my first time working with a big artist like that. That wasn't like from the same city that I was from. Like, I had a relationship with Division before they blew up, so I kind of like grew into them. But of course, like, I mean, I didn't know Miguel from anywhere. So it was pressure in that way, and then pressure from just being able to perform, understanding that the music video was an extension of the film that X was working on. So it was a great way to start. And from there, kind of just never looked back.
That's crazy. Imagine being like, hey, I'm just looking to learn. Is there anything we can do? Like I'm just trying to get like a little something. It's like, yeah, okay. Here's Miguel. Oh, thanks. I have a question, and it's actually about the Usher video, LaShawn. How do you maintain like an actual, authentic, genuine party vibe? Like, because I know for like a lot of like starting directors and stuff like that, they'll be like, okay, let's have a party scene. Everyone act natural. And then everyone's like, I love it here. And it's like really uncomfortable. But that looked so natural. Like everyone was actually just at a party. How'd you do that?
I definitely can't take all the credit for it, but it was really intentional casting. I would say it was the most part. Everyone already knew each other. All the background and the people dancing are Usher's dancers, and then of course like Diddy's sons they've been around Usher. Everyone just knew each other already, and a lot of that I have to give to Usher himself. Like, he was extremely professional, but at the same time, like, really, really humble for the position that he's in. And it just made everyone else feel comfortable. And towards the back end of the shoot, it really was, we kind of lost the reins a bit. Like, it really did just kind of turn into a party. And me and Jordan, the DP, were just kind of like running around, like, get this, these people right here. Like, and we just had to get the shots. They weren't going to do it again. So it was just very much like roll the song and just loop it, and what everybody does is what everybody does. And it was kind of just on me and Jordan to get it. But at the same time, I guess it was also just very intentional with how we shot. we purposely made it feel like we put a light on the camera, as you can see. Like we made it feel very much like really elevated, like home video in that sense. Like we shot on Alexa, but we just put a light on the camera and made it feel like the camera was just like somebody in the party. One of our biggest references for the video was actually a Gucci Cruise commercial, which was this like opulent commercial that just had like this crazy house and a pool party, and it felt very real, and that was like a big reference for us. And like Great Gatsby was another big reference. So when we got on early calls, it was kind of like, how can we make this like hip hop Gatsby or like black Great Gatsby? Like how can we take that like level of over the topness that you see in the video, like, you know, there's chains in the fridge, like, you know what I mean, and stuff like that, like just like, and poke fun at it though. Like obviously the video doesn't take itself very seriously, but it was probably till this day like the most enjoyable shoot I've had. It was genuinely like just a lot of fun. Everybody was great. It was challenging because it's like there's so many cameos, like, you know, like Snoop came in the morning and they were like, you have like 45 minutes with him, you know, so we were just had to like race to shoot this kitchen scene, but everybody was great. So I think it was just like a real good energy on the set that's translated on camera.
That's sick. That's sick. That's sick. I don't think y'all are realizing the bars, because chains in the fridge, because it's ice. Oh. My God. Told you I'm a rapper. Mikayla, how do you manage stress? Like the stress of this needs to be done quickly, or this needs to be done at all. You're being asked something incredibly wild to do, and you need to show face like, every day. What do you mean, breakfast? How do you do that?
I feel like every day I'm still like learning how to deal with it. I pay like so much respect to my head of production, Amir, who I really wish was here with me. He's like one of my amazing mentors, and same with Fulian, who's one of our EPs, because every time we're in a stressful situation, you know, I feel like I always look like I'm handling it well, but inside I'm like, I need to know like what Amir would do. I need to know what Fu would do.
Do you have an example of one?
Let's talk about that Drake video. So like, kind of just to answer that question like in a more simple way, you're constantly like figuring out how to deal with stress. I think every situation calls for something different, but I think also just like trusting yourself and like remembering like, that's the thing about being a producer too, like you're the only person who can fix the problem. That's why you're there. That's your job. It's to fix the problem. And to fix the problem doesn't mean to just get the director everything they want or just to land under the budget. That all falls within it. But it's also about being creative, a creative problem solver. But so that Drake video, we shot it over 2 days. One day was like an hour and a half north of the city in the middle of like the muddiest field. It's like we chose it because of the mud, and it was like the worst. And then another day at Casa Loma, and so Casa Loma it was a very difficult location to source, just because it's incredibly expensive, and just talking to the right person. And also that job got awarded on like a Monday, and we shot it on a Friday. We had like 4 days to prep that job. It was insane. And so because the timeline was so tight, it was literally like everyone on our team was a producer, was a location manager, was an art director. We were all doing everything because everyone that we hired was already doing everything else. Like it was crazy. And so I remember I drove to Casa Loma. On my way to the office, I just walked inside and I was like, who do I talk to get this location for like a Drake video and a feature video that we're filming? And they directed me to the manager, who came out, and they told me, oh, that person's up there. And long story short, I literally just like waited outside until the person got there, met them, and was like, hey, like this is what we're trying to do. And then we got the location. And it's like, it's just crazy because I was also like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm not going to go there in person. I'm not going to wait for the manager to get there. Like, this is this is a huge video. Like, I shouldn't have to do that. But like, no, that's what had to happen. I had to like put any ego I had aside and just like get my hands a little dirty. But that was like stressful because it was, if I didn't get that location, what would we have? What other castles are there in Toronto? But yeah, just like dealing with stress, I think it's about like just literally doing everything that you can. Like, no one can get mad at you, and you can't get mad at yourself as long as you've known you've done everything you can to I think solve that problem or present that solution. But yeah, I guess that was one stressful example. But that video was, to this day, like, and so LaShawn second unit directed that. That was directed by X, and LaShawn did a lot of the directing for the second unit. But that was probably the most stressful video we've ever had to do, because we had these two hip-hop artists, and dealing with hip-hop artists is a whole production on its own, because you bring them a trailer's not good enough. You get them a second trailer because you know they're not going to like the first trailer. The second trailer still isn't good enough. So then you have to give them the trailer for the other artist. Like, it's a whole, you have to have like a producer just to deal with the artist, or maybe two producers. But so that was just like, to this day though, it's still like my favorite video, to be honest, because of how much work went into it. But yeah, that's, every time we watch it, me and LaShawn are sitting down, we're just like, oh my God, like the trauma from this video. But yeah.
I'm curious, when you went up and you were like, hey, we need to like get Casa Loma in like 4 days, what was their face once you said Drake?
They don't, so Casa Loma has a restaurant called Blood Brothers, and I'm pretty sure like Drake goes to it a lot. So like, to them, it's like, to the owner of Casa Loma, he's like, oh yeah, like, I don't care, like, it's still gonna cost you $20,000 to rent our location for 12 hours. Like, they honestly don't care. Like, there's a lot, like, Toronto has so many music videos going on, and the owners of these locations or whatever, like, they just wanna make their bag. Like, they also have a business to run. So it's different if you go to, like, you know, maybe like a location that is owned by like a small family. That's a different story sometimes. But when it's something as big as Casa Loma, where you have celebrities going there all the time for the restaurant and just like the history of the place, it doesn't really matter to them. So it depends on the location, depends on the circumstance.
That's hilarious to me. Yes, Drake's coming through. 20K. I guess this question would be for both of you. Both of you can choose, I'm gonna say two, and then you guys can decide amongst yourselves who wants to get which one. All right, so favorite music video you've done, or project in general, doesn't have to be music. Actually, no, let's make a music video. Favorite music video you've done, and then the shyest / most nervous you've been to do something.
Those are the two questions?
Yeah. Go ahead, whisper.
Well, I'll do favorite music video because you talked about it.
Man's like, I don't get shy. What?
I know, I was actually gonna say like that. Actually, the questions suit themselves to us. I think I'll take the second one.
Yeah, I think the Usher video is the favorite music video I've done. That was like my video. I think it was just like a crazy full circle moment for me. Like, I grew up as a huge Usher fan. I grew up as a huge X fan. So like, having both of them on the set that day was just like, what is going on? You know, and then you sprinkle in all these other cameos, JD, this person. It's just like, this is not real. You know what I mean? But at the same time, just having to like stay level-headed and execute and perform and understand that there's tight timelines, and you just have to be able to produce within those circumstances. And then of course, like Mikayla said, like rolling with the punches, like things happen on the day, and things happened on that day for sure. You know, like LMA left an hour and a half earlier than planned, so it was like, okay, cool, we got to get these shots now. So things just happen, but I think it was just a great overall experience for me, and it was when things became very, very real. I think for me, when it was like, it felt like I met the potential at that point. So I think for me, that's what resonated, was like, I felt like it was like an arrival moment for me.
Did you like celebrate it? Were you like, did you sit down and you were like, yeah, I'm him? Or did you go home and you're like, look at me?
No, it was just kind of, I guess it was a bit in between. In the moment, you're just so focused on being able to deliver on what you've written on the treatments and deliver on the idea. So there's not too much time, I guess, at least for me, to really process that side of things. But afterward, it was very much like a warm, fuzzy moment, so to speak, for me, for sure. And especially like those that like have known me before I even really picked up a camera, I think they understood what that moment was for me. So, yeah.
Mikayla?
Okay, so what was like the most nervous situation?
Yeah, that you were nervous about for the project, where you were like,
Okay.
oh my, why?
Okay, it's gonna be a commercial,
Yeah.
which
Let's
is
do a
weird
commercial.
because like commercials and music videos are they're so different. Like music, so just again to kind of go back to Fela, the EPs and the founders of Fela originally had Pop Rock, which was a production company under Myelin, which is an umbrella company that housed a lot of other companies in the production world. And when it was Pop Rock, it was just music videos and a commercial here and there. But we were like known as a music video production company. And then when Fela was created out of during the pandemic, after what happened to George Floyd, and my EP Taj, he was doing a lot of reflecting and listening to a lot of Fela Kuti, who is a Nigerian artist, which is why we're called Fela, because that's I think that was like his inspiration at the time to create this production company. But so starting from music videos and transitioning to commercials was really interesting. I think we had a lot to. Sorry, I'm like answering a different question. I'll get to it.
No, I feel you. I'm down to go down the road. Yeah, we got it.
Okay. So we that transition was really difficult because it's really hard for people to take you seriously in the commercial world compared to music videos. It's like, oh, here you are doing an Usher music video, but like, can you direct a $2 million Cadillac car commercial? And like, it's let alone be a director that we've never worked with. So that in itself is like, we had a lot to prove as a production company, and that transition has been a long one, but like now we're doing 95% commercials, 5% music videos. I actually don't even remember. Maybe I shouldn't say this at the International Music Video Festival, but but like our roots are in music videos, and I think that the work that we do as a commercial production company now, it's inspired by the music video skills that we have, and that's what we bring differently to the table. And so to kind of answer the stress question, a lot of our commercials, because they have this music video edge, this like, you know, it's always has this extra oomph, this extra bit of creativity that you wouldn't normally see in a regular car commercial. We were doing this Uber commercial that unfortunately didn't release because like, and this has happened twice to us, where we do a commercial or music video and something changes, like the creative director gets a different job, and so the project gets dropped and never gets released, which is unfortunate, but it's just like the reality.
Worst.
It's just the reality of like the industry we work in. But we did this Uber commercial like 2 years ago, and same situation, awarded on Monday, shooting on Friday, and it's driving all over the city of Toronto, like all driving shots. And in order to do driving shots, you need PDOs, police officers, to block off the roads for you. And like one will drive in the front, one will drive in the back. And like you have people at every single corner, every single opportunity where there's someone to block the roads, there will be that person. And I can't say any names, but the person who was responsible to get our police officers did not. And this is like a $3 million commercial. We found this out 2 days before we're shooting, and like So basically, we had to find a legal way to still shoot this commercial because we couldn't let our clients know that this happened. Like, absolutely no way. So we had to find a legal way to shoot this commercial while keeping our crew comfortable, while making sure our client is happy. And this was the most stressful thing that I've ever done. But so we learned that what we can do is hire a construction company because you know how when construction companies, they like close certain sections of the road, like they just put a pylon here or there, and all of a sudden we're moving this.
Slick.
So like,
oh, you slick.
literally from like, it was so, I'm not going to use the word sketchy, but it was bootleg. So we literally created we blocked off one lane from like Dundas down to Richmond, like a square, basically in like the center of the city on a weekday. And we just had this one lane that just went in a circle. And so we had our car on the, what do you attach? Process trailer, thank you. We had it on a process trailer and it was just going in this circle and like we were working with a construction company who does not work with a film company. And like, so like communicating with them was just another whole thing. And it was crazy. It was so crazy. And that was the most stressful thing because it was like, okay, this needs to be safe. We need to get our shots. We need to get our creative. The client needs to be happy. And we can't like get in trouble for this. Like there were so many things that we needed to make sure we stayed within, and we got it. And then it didn't release, which was the worst. But that was the most stressful. Like I'm shaking thinking about it. It was so stressful. But I think that also taught me a lot about like the kind of producer that I want to be. Like I do not want to ever put crew in that situation. Like it was borderline unsafe. And it was, but we were so far down the line that it had to be done. And same with the Wait For You video. Like I was saying, like one of the locations we shot at was incredibly muddy. And so in order to get our trucks from one location to the next location within that muddy area, like this is like super detailed, but like one of the things that we needed to move was like our washrooms because it was outdoors. There was no indoor location. So we had portable washrooms and we couldn't move one of the washrooms. They were like stuck in the mud. And that was also really stressful because now we have a crew of 200 people that are incredibly unhappy because their washrooms are now a 15-minute walk away. And like that also is like, as a producer, you're like, oh my God, like there's nothing I can do right now. There's nothing I can do. This is like, I feel so bad. What is the solution that I can provide to do my job and to help my crew? So those are, I guess, two very stressful situations.
The construction one is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm only talking about negative. You need to give me a positive question.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. I'm imagining like the people in Toronto the next day being like, I see nothing changed. They had like a whole day of construction. What did they build? So that's how come it took me like 3 hours to get home. But same kind of thing in terms of the idea from music videos to commercials, because I know taking that leap can be very difficult for some people, not only from themselves, like doing that creatively, but also the idea that like, how are the others going to perceive you? Because like commercial people be also bougie, they're all like, we commercial. And then there's like film, and that's like its own thing. So how do you kind of like switch into that?
Good question. I think creatively, at a top level, it's the same thing. For me, I feel like you're shooting a scene and you're shooting a scene. It's for me kind of all the same. It's just like putting the intention and the decisions around what that scene needs to be. So I don't think that shifts very much from music videos to commercials. There's definitely, from a business standpoint, like Mikayla was saying, there is a very different viewpoint of them, which is unfortunate because of the first point, because to me creatively there's not that much difference. But going into commercials, it is, with your base being music videos, it is definitely, there's doubt there for sure. Not on my part from my experience, but more so on the client's part. So a lot of it is overcoming that and building trust with the agency or the client early on, I would say one of the biggest differences is just the review process, which is in a way good. It's nice being challenged in that perspective because for a music video, it's like if the artist is happy directly, you're fine. You know what I mean? Usually the artist, especially if it's bigger artists, will trump the video commissioner, will trump anybody. If this is what Usher wants to do, this is what Usher wants to do. This is what Drake wants to do, please believe. This is what we're doing, right? You know what I mean? So you just have to collaborate with one person. For music videos, you have, your video village is nuts. You have sometimes like 10 plus people, interrogating the monitor, right? So you have to be prepared for that in a lot of ways. It makes you have to have your idea be a lot more tight. You have to be a lot more thorough. For me, just being detail oriented in that way, it wasn't a massive transition. For me, even with music videos, I just guess creatively, like I treat the treatment process very much as like an opportunity to figure out what's happening in a very like sequential way. Like I can't really come up with an idea on a top level. Like we're gonna kind of do this and then kind of do that. I think there's a talent in that, being able to stay loose, but I've always just been very like, the camera does this and then the camera does that and then we pull out here and then we swing around. Like it's very regimented, and I think that helped me move into commercials easier because that's what they want to see, right? A lot of times with music videos, you're not doing storyboards. A lot of times it's just conversations, and then you get on the set and you figure it out and you find it. It's not like that in commercials, right? You're not finding many things on the day. You're executing many things on the day. And there's pros and cons to that because, of course, like you'll find opportunities on the day that you just didn't think about. And oftentimes, I mean, Mikayla will tell you, I'll go rogue and try and shoot something, and everyone in Video Village is like, what's happening? What are you doing? Right? Because it's like, that's not the plan. That's not on the boards. So that's the biggest transition, is just understanding like in commercials, it's very much in pre-pro, you're very much building a plan, and the production is executing that plan as it was planned. And if you go outside of that, you better have a good reason as to why. So that was an adjustment. It was that part of things. It was more so like the regimented nature of commercials was an adjustment, but creatively, I don't think it was a big leap. I will say often commercials creatively are a lot, they're not as forgiving, right? Like music videos, in a lot of ways, you can hide your mistakes in music videos in the cut because you can always rely on your performance setup or always cut to this. And music videos is more of like there's more freedom in it creatively. So it also lets you hide some things. Commercials could be very humbling in that sense because the mistakes you've made will be exposed, and you will have to solve them in the edit in ways that are not as easygoing as a music video would be. There is no performance setup to cut to, right? So I would really just say it's a matter of preparation. I think there's more pressure on the preparation going into commercials.
No, absolutely. That's hella tough. And I especially know in commercial, they'd be like, at least with music videos, like sometimes they're kind of like vibing when they're looking at the screen, like, oh, that looks tight. Like, I like how I look. Commercials standing there and they're like, And you're like, do you like it? Do you like it? And with dealing with people like that and stuff like that in general, Mikayla, here's the chance to talk about like nice things. How do you communicate with people? How do you interact? How do you go and make connections? How do you make the room feel like, oh my God, we love that person, and then they want to come back to you? I would say in like a quick way, what do you think is a good piece of advice you could tell them on how to do that?
On how to like be a like welcoming producer, or just
Yeah. Like how do you, as a producer, go forward and make connections with people? Because you also need to know like the gear company. You need to be able to know like directors. You need to know the whole crew to get the crew. You need to be able to call a construction company to randomly lock down Toronto.
Yeah, if anyone needs a construction company, I have a guy. I think like you have like two different faces. You have your client agency facing space, and that's like, and you know that relates to music videos as the client, and then you have your more like leader face, which is what you need to be for your crew. So with the client and the agency, they have hired you to execute their project. They've hired you, and they trust that you will spend their money wisely, and that you will execute the vision, and make the most out of the money. And so you basically just need to exude confidence, but not obnoxious confidence, like knowledgeable confidence. So, and that's not even something that you put on, that's just who you are. So I think like, I remember a situation on a job that LaShawn and I did that were crossing our fingers releases, but it's been a long time since we shot it, like literally a year ago. I think it was our last day shooting at the Revival, not the cinema, the Revival Club on like Queen. Okay, yeah. And I think LaShawn like did this. He was shooting something a little differently than how we boarded it, and agency producer immediately comes up to me and is like, "Hey, like, what are we doing? This is different." And he was like anxious to the tens. Like I thought I was an anxious person, but like so managing that was its own thing, and so. I had to go talk to LaShawn and basically understand what he was doing differently and why. And kind of like LaShawn said, like if you're gonna diverge, is that the right word? If you're gonna diverge from the original plan, you better have a good reason. And he did have a good reason. I just needed to fully understand it as a producer so that I could communicate it to the people who were paying for that shot that they had not seen before. So it's just about like, if you're gonna take on the job of being a producer, you better know the creative, like the back of your hand. You better understand it. You better understand the intentions of your director, and understand how every single department needs to operate based on that. And that also includes, so your director's vision, but also your client's vision. You know, if your director has, okay, I need A, B, and C, and it needs to look this way because this is how I want it to feel. But then your client and agency are like, okay, well, we also need it to look like this because of our A, B, and C. And so as the producer, you're like the middleman managing all of that. And so it just comes down to like I said, I feel like I'm repeating myself, so sorry, but like just like really understanding what everyone's needs are and being that person to bring it all together. Yeah. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
Yeah, you slayed. What? Absolutely. Thank you so much to Mikayla. Thank you, LaShawn. We thoroughly appreciate. Yeah, clap for them. That's yeah. Bless us with knowledge, bless us with stories, bless us with construction, all of those things together. I feel like there's a lot for people to take away from that, and that's really important. To my peoples in the back, 2 hands if we have time for questions, 1 hand if we don't. I'm blind, please. I see.
Somebody waving back there.
Perfect. Okay, if we have any questions in the audience, I'm mobile.
My guy jumped up.
Sean, just have a question for you. In terms of like when you're working with big artists like Usher and that, when you're developing a concept, is that something that's very much your concept, or is that something that they're already bringing to the table? And how do you kind of manage staying true to your own vision and your own style while still maintaining theirs?
Yeah, great question. It's definitely never the same. It really depends on the artist. I would say more often than not, an artist will have a very, very loose brief, which is nice. It gives you like a direction, and then you can really just create from that and riff off of that. If we're using Don't Waste My Time as an example, that was a lot more collaborative. Usher knew what he wanted to do as far as like an energy and a vibe. And it was more so like figuring out the beats and putting all the ideas together in a way that would make sense and give us like a resolve at the end and things like that. So it changes. And then if for an artist like Drake, just from being close to those projects that X has done, he'll be heavily involved, and a lot of the ideas will be his, as far as like on a conceptual level. And again, it's then your job to figure out how to like bring those things to life in a way that is cohesive. I find a lot of musicians will they'll just throw a bunch of ideas at you, and a lot of times it's being able to almost interpret what they're really looking for and take a little bit of this, take from here, take from there, and then find a through line, find like a red thread that ties all this together and will feel complete by the end of it. And then for commercials, I would say it's oftentimes your agency's coming a lot more with a brief, and then you're like elevating and layering on top of that. But for music videos, from my experience, it's been a lot of space for you to have your own voice there.
Thank you so much, LaShawn. We have another question back here.
Hello. Thank you guys for sharing your perspective and insight. I think it's really great to have both a producer and director on the stage together. And both of you in your own unique stories and answers had alluded to some interesting challenges from the unique perspective of a director and producer. So I wanted to ask what it's like trying to reconcile your two roles working on the same goal, but having competing objectives when, let's say, a director wants to, not to be so pointed, but stick to a particular vision, but then a producer has to keep the director honest. Like, how do you reconcile your roles and still work together?
I can take first.
Yeah, answer that.
I think it's a great question. For me, I think a large part of filmmaking, just in general, regardless of the role, is creative problem solving. That is kind of the job. If you strip it down at its like core, it's being able to take what's in your head and put it on a screen, right, and make it real. And that just inevitably requires problem solving. I also think it's like you have to remain collaborative, and really just understand what the mission is, understand what the goal is, and being able to be comfortable pivoting creatively. I think when I started, it was almost only pivoting. I'm talking like before I was signed or anything like that. A lot of it was finding things on the day and very run and gun, and I'm like super thankful for those run and gun days, because on sets it allows me just to pivot and not be locked into an idea. I think from a director's perspective, you just have to remain collaborative and understand that as much as you've been brought onto the project, it's like this song that you're shooting the music video for existed before you got here, and the commercial that you're working on, whatever the product is or whatever the agency is that's working on it, they all have existed before you got here. So it's like oftentimes as a director, you're coming in on the process really towards the back end. If you look at it like from inception of when this song was created and inception of when this idea for this commercial was created, you are actually coming in on the back end. So it's being able to maintain that perspective and understand that ultimately you just have to be able to collaborate and keep everyone's interests in mind, and being able to pivot your creative in a way that still works for you, but allows you to meet the needs of whoever the powers might be. So I think it really just comes down to creative problem solving.
That is the most humbled director experience I've ever heard, to be like, oh, it actually started before me. I am not Himothy. Like that's great.
Yeah,
Mikayla,
but it really is that.
Yeah, I think to answer that from a producer perspective, it's true. Like, and again, my mind is so in commercials right now, but like it is very similar to music videos. Like they'll be working on a script, the agency, for months, maybe like a year, and then you come in, and so you also need to respect all of the work that they have put in for that amount of time. LaShawn and I have run into this a lot together, just like a difference of opinion or a change in direction a little bit, and then, finding the middle ground, whether it is budget or whether it is just this physically does not exist. We like physically cannot bring in 11 giraffes, LaShawn. Like we don't have them. Just like things like that. And I think what a director needs, and I think that sometimes some people have a misconception of a director as it's this person that gets everything they want, and that's not true. Like, yes, you're a director, and yes, it is your vision, but in order to be a good director, you also need. My partner put this really well. I think it's like talent needs to be tempered with discipline, and so in order to be shout out Patrick, but in order to be a successful director, this is just my personal opinion, you also need to learn how to be responsible in your vision, and that includes being receptive to a producer who has your back. But that also includes a producer who genuinely has your back, not just a producer who's, trying to finish on time, trying to save a couple pennies. And that kind of goes back to everything I think I've been saying about just being a producer that genuinely cares about the vision, both from a director's POV and a client's POV. So I think like in those challenges of having a difference of opinion with your director, I think it's just about reminding them that you're in this with them and that you're their partner, and that, it takes two of you to figure out the solution to whatever the difference of opinion is or whatever the problem may be. But yeah, I hope I answered that from a good POV.
That was an amazing answer, and you dropped bars on us too. So low-key, we're supposed to stop for a 10-minute intermission, but I kind of want to get one more question. So we have 60 seconds for a quick question, quick answer.
For the armor in the Drake music video, you said you had 4 days to get all that together. That was a lot of armor and a lot of people. Did you have to like resize anything? That armor. I feel like that was not an easy thing.
So
30 seconds.
Oh, Jesus, Akil. We got lucky with that. We had an amazing stunts partner. And because they do stunts, they also, on shows that have a lot of action and war scenes, et cetera, they also collect a lot of this gear. So luckily, most of that gear was just owned by our stunts guy, but also like we literally had to go to every costume house in the city. The one that Drake wore was like a Nocta one. I think we had to purchase one, which was like super expensive, and then we had to get the Nocta, like the logo had to be like made by a welder. So some things had its individual challenges, but overall I think we just had really good relationships and partners in order to find the things that we needed in that short amount of time.
Jeez, look at you with time management, even doing the question fast. Look at that. Everyone, hands. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you guys being here. We're going to have an 8-minute intermission. Go use the washroom, drink water, mingle, talk about how much you like me. Either way, come back.